Man, I've always wanted to know about the circulatory and respiratory system. Maybe I can read a book about it. Wow, this book looks good. Can't wait to read it.
Hi there!
Who are you? Are you in my brain?
I'm going to tell you about the circulatory and respiratory system.
Okay.
The circulatory and respiratory system work together to maintain homeostasis of the blood pH levels. The respiratory system brings oxygen to the red blood cells. The respiratory system also takes carbon dioxide out. The functions of the respiratory system are to enable us to breathe, including inhaling and exhaling air in the body, the absorption of oxygen from the air in order to produce energy, and the discharge of carbon dioxide, which is the byproduct of the process. After the gas exchange, as oxygen is carried to all the cells in the body, they absorb it and produce carbon dioxide as a result of the cellular functioning, which is then carried back to the lungs to be excreted. Speech is another function. Inhalation is the first step of speech production, with the next two steps being sound production through the vocal folds around the larynx, and forming the words or sounds require a respiratory system.
What are all these things? What do they do?
The trachea provides airflow to and from the lungs for respiration. Lungs provide oxygen while also removing carbon dioxide from our bodies. The diaphragm serves as the main muscle of respiration.
So, the respiratory system must work with the muscular system too, then. Who would have known that your diaphragm is a muscle?
Crazy, right? And it works with the digestive system. The epiglottis permits air to enter into the lungs and permits food to enter the gastrointestinal tract, which protects the body from choking on food. Also, the larynx allows air to pass while keeping food and drink from blocking the airway, and it contains the body's voice box. Oh, and we can't forget, the vocal cords are responsible for voice production. The folds vibrate when air is passed through the lungs.
Okay, all of this is interesting, but how does breathing even work?
Well, pulmonary ventilation, aka breathing, is when air is inhaled through the nose and mouth. Air moves through the pharynx, larynx, and trachea into the lungs. It takes the exact same way to exit the body. Changes to the volume and air pressure in the lungs trigger pulmonary ventilation. The muscles of the chest and the diaphragm change the size of the chest cavity. As the volume of the lungs increases, air pressure drops and air rushes in. During normal exhalation, the muscles relax. The lungs become smaller, the air pressure rises, and air is expelled.
Okay, but how do we smell?
Well, turn the page. Our nervous system works with the respiratory system to identify odors in the environment. You can smell stinky socks because of specialized sensory cells called olfactory sensory neurons, which are found in a small patch of tissue high inside the nose. Our brain has all the info to identify the familiar odor.
All of this is nice, but isn't there something that has to help all of this stay together?
Of course, turn the page.
It's just a skeleton.
It may seem that way, but the skeletal system provides structure for the respiratory system. Your rib cage holds your lungs, they provide structure and security. It also helps separate the nasal cavity.
I know that your skeletal system protects your respiratory system, but what about diseases? What diseases are related to your respiratory system?
Girl, there are so many. Too many, but I'll name a few. First, emphysema is a lung disease in which the alveoli that promote oxygen exchange between the air and the bloodstream are destroyed. This is most common in smokers and people who frequently breathe in irritants. For example, someone who lives near a factory. There is no cure, but a person can stop smoking or avoid the irritants to prevent the worsening of the disease. Although the damage to the lungs is irreversible, there are still treatments to lessen the symptoms, such as drug therapies, oxygen therapy, surgery, and lifestyle treatment. There is also the common cold and asthma. Asthma is a lung disease that inflames and narrows the airways. If your parents have asthma, you are more likely to have asthma. Asthma causes recurring periods of wheezing, chest tightness, shortness of breath, and coughing. Asthma cannot be cured, but is treated with medicine such as an inhaler. The common cold is a viral infection of the nose and trach. Treatments include self-care, such as blowing your nose or using a throat lozenge to treat the symptoms along with over-the-counter medicines. Seeing a doctor can help too.
Wow, I'm learning so much. There has to be different respiratory systems for different animals, right? Can you tell me about, like a bird?
Of course I can. Turn the page. Birds don't have diaphragms like humans do. Instead, air is moved in and out of their respiratory system through pressure changes in their air sacs. Air enters their body through their nostrils, larynx, and into the trachea, which is very similar to how air enters human bodies. When a bird inhales, the air will enter their bodies and move through their air sacs to their lungs. When a bird exhales, it leaves their bodies the same way it entered.
This is getting kind of boring. So, can I hear some fun facts?
Ugh, okay, turn the page. Some people can hold their breath for 20 minutes, while the average person can only hold their breath for 30 to 60 seconds. Asthma used to be treated with psychotherapy because between the 1930s to 1950s, people believed that it was a psychological disease.
That's ridiculous.
I know, right? And horses only breathe through their nose. They have a tissue that forms a tight seal over the oral cavity. It prevents the horse from breathing through their mouths, even in respiratory diseases. Lungs are the only organs that can float on water due to the alveoli. The alveoli are filled with air.
Man, it was fun learning about the respiratory system, but what about the circulatory system?
The circulatory system is a very complex system that is vital because it keeps many of our bodily organs going. Some of its functions are to transport nutrients, oxygen, and hormones to cells throughout the body and to remove waste such as carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste, and metabolic waste. It transports nutrients to and from the cells in the body to provide nourishment and help in fighting diseases, stabilize temperature and pH, and to maintain homeostasis.
All of this sounds really important, but what do the major parts of the system do, and what is the path that blood travels?
The artery carries oxygen-rich blood away from the heart to all of the body's tissues. Capillaries are small, thin blood vessels that connect the arteries and the veins. Veins are elastic blood vessels that transport blood from various regions of the body to the heart. The heart pumps oxygen and nutrient rich blood throughout the body. The heart is also a muscle, so it's part of the muscular system. It expands and contracts. This is what pumps blood throughout the body. In the heart, the left ventricle contracts, pushing red blood cells into the aorta, the body's largest artery. From here, blood moves through a series of increasingly smaller arteries until it reaches a capillary, the junction between arteries and veins. Here, oxygen molecules detach from the red blood cells and slip across the capillary wall into body tissue. Now, the oxygenated blood begins its return to the heart. It passes through increasingly larger veins to eventually reach the right atrium. It enters the right ventricle, which pumps through the pulmonary arteries into the lungs to pick up more oxygen. Oxygenated blood re enters the left atrium, moves into the left ventricle, and the blood's journey begins again.
But how is blood made?
Well, your blood comes from your bone marrow.
What?
Yep, your skeletal system plays a major role. The marrow inside of bones produces red and white blood cells. These blood cells are part of the bloodstream. The red blood cells are responsible for carrying oxygen, and the white blood cells are for fighting off disease. White blood cells flow through the body to battle foreign invaders that can threaten your health. Platelets are tiny blood cells that help your body form clots to stop bleeding. Plasma helps us maintain a satisfactory blood pressure and volume and supplies critical proteins for blood clotting and immunity. Plasma is not produced in bone marrow. It is a product of several organs, or one could say the body. Plasma is mostly water and salts, and it's absorbed through our digestive tract every day.
Okay, so the blood cells fight disease?
Yep.
Well, what type of circulatory diseases are there?
There is sickle cell anemia, a blood disorder where the blood forms into a C shape. Sickle cell is a genetic disease. It comes from certain hemoglobin inherited from the parents. Hemoglobin are proteins inside red blood cells that carry oxygen. Abnormal hemoglobin mishap in the blood cell. The blood cells die earlier than healthy red blood cells. Without enough red blood cells, your body lacks sufficient amounts of oxygen. Treatments depend on the severity of the disease in the patient. Mild cases can be treated with over the counter medicine to help with pain. Extreme cases can be helped with blood transfusion, bone marrow transfusion, and experimental treatments such as gene therapy. Another disease is arrhythmia, which is when a person's heartbeat is abnormal. The heartbeat will slow down, speed up, or skip. Treatments include surgery, medications, or pacemakers, which can make the heart go at a normal heart rate. Temporal arteritis is a disease that happens when blood vessels in the neck are damaged. Treatments include corticosteroids, which mitigate the damage caused in the tissues.
That's a lot of diseases. The circulatory system seems really important for humans, but what about other animals like fish? How does a fish's circulatory system differ from that of a human?
In the circulatory system of a fish, the blood travels from the heart to the gills, where it absorbs oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. It then flows from the gills to the organs and tissues into the rest of the body, then back to the heart again. There's just one circuit from the heart.
Oh, I forgot to ask. How does your heart know how to pump blood?
Easy, your nervous system. The nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. The brain tells the heart to beat. The heartbeat pumps blood throughout the body so that nutrients and oxygen can be brought to cells and so that waste can be removed from the cells.
Wow, this stuff is really interesting, but you know what would be more interesting?
Fun facts.
Fun facts.
A heart can still beat after being removed from a body as long as it has oxygen. The circulatory system has been studied for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians believed that the heart was a source of emotion instead of the brain. The heart was stored during mummification rather than the brain. Red blood cells are unique in that they don't have a nucleus. This leaves more room for the cell to store oxygen. The end of a relationship can actually break your heart. Stress cardiomyopathy is temporary weakening of the muscle of the heart. The symptoms are similar to those of a heart attack, including chest pain, shortness of breath, and arm aches. It is caused by emotionally stressful events, like a breakup or physical separation from someone you love.
Yeah, I've learned so much. Thank you, random sky voice.
No problem.